When he turned his back from shoulder to shoulder, it looked like as wide as the tailgate of a truck.
And just darkness, literal darkness, just came like all over, just all over me except where I was standing.
This thing let out the most blood-curdling, mind-blowing, spine-tingling scream that you've ever heard in your life, and it cut through me like a knife.
And I knew that they were going to take me. I just knew it. And then the next thing I can remember is being levitated.
Well, when I look in there, I see two big eyes staring back at me.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Bump Podcast, a place for the believers of the unexplained, monsters, and paranormal. Join us, and we'll go face to face with what goes bump in the night.
Hi, how you doing, mate? My name's Gary Lynn from Australian Yowie Research, founded roughly about 27 years ago. We are the #1 contact in the world for Yowie sightings and encounters.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, with Australian Yowie Research, you have a website too, right? YowieHunters.com. Is that
correct, mate? That's the one.
All right, sweet. Like I said before we started recording officially, I've been in contact with you off and on. You sent me some pictures and stuff like that we're going to get into, I hope. But you got a lot of fans. Like, I know there's a couple guys in Australia that email me or they'll message on every YouTube video, and they talk about what you do. And so I'm excited to have you on here to talk about what you do. And I've seen the thermal images. It's been all over like the Travel Channel, Discovery Channel, stuff like. It's worldwide, and to talk about the Yowie, I think it's getting more attention in this last couple of years than I ever imagined it would. Like, it's like you guys are on the brink of actually closing the case on this. I think. How do you feel about it?
Well, I appreciate it, mate. Very, very kind words of you to say. But yeah, mate, in all honesty, mate, we spend that many hours out in the bush and out in the forest, going to these places where these Yowies may be calling home. We generally correlate that with sightings and encounters that do come through to us, and use that from our database to try and decide the best places to go to basically conduct our research. With those thermal images, that obviously started from an original expedition, which was kayaking down a certain dam to get to a certain location where we believe they were coming from. So kayaking about 3 o'clock in the morning, which ended up being eye shine, following one through the bush, come back across the dam to load up the kayaks for the night. And when we got back up to the van to load the kayaks back in, it started off with, I heard something moving. And then Dean Harrison, who is the founder of Australian Yowie Research, he took his kayak up and he got growled at from across the road. So it was that right there that sparked off the investigation onto that particular ridgeline for us to then focus a lot of our intent and a lot of our investigations on this particular ridgeline, which did lead to another thermal capture that I captured probably about 3-4 months before those worldwide famous ones. Where it was about 1 o'clock in the morning and I heard like a bulldozer coming crashing down through the bush. I pull the thermal camera up and I see this massive heat signature come down through the bush. And as I got a bit closer, it then split into two. And then I was able to determine what I was actually looking at once they split into two. And for the next 15 minutes or so, I actually watched one sitting there and another one off to the right, I assume ripping bulbs out of the ground underneath reeds and that kind of thing for a food source. And then that sparked us to then investigate the top of that ridgeline, which then, led on to us / Buckingham, who had the camera that night. catching those two 9.5-foot yowies on camera.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Oh, wow. I didn't know that you've had such a clear visual. You got to sit there and watch them?
Correct, mate. So yeah, so for my thermal images, it was about 15 minutes. Unfortunately, with the distance and the terrain of where I got mine, it wasn't as clear as Bucks. I'm talking about 80 to 100 meters from mine. Right. With Bucks, we're only talking about 20 meters at the most. Still through thick foliage, but a lot easier to notice. So Buck's experience when he got those thermals, it lasted about an hour and a half of something else he was watching peek around a tree stump. He actually watched the hands move up and down the tree stump as it looked around, and then about 20 minutes after that happened, he then moved to his right, panned to his right a bit, and saw some heat signature coming through the bush. And next thing you know, mate, these two big 9-foot beings step out, and how you doing?
Oh my gosh. All right. Let me ask you, man. You look like a good sized guy. You actually look like an Australian Jason Momoa. It's like, you're so handsome, it's not fair, man.
Yeah, my nickname is Aquaman. Yeah.
All right.
It's pretty common, that one, mate.
Well, it's about time I have an episode for the ladies out there, man. But let me ask you, you're a good sized guy, but were you scared when you saw this? Like when you were that close?
To be honest, mate, it was a strange night. I think we were just that pumped with excitement. It's like you basically like a nervous excitement when all this stuff's going on. Yeah. And even though the scenario of Buck capturing those thermals had ended, those two beings didn't leave us for the rest of the night. They hung around. Mm. So when we go on these overnight expeditions, we actually we sleep in hammocks. So we find a suitable position, put up some hammocks. When the night's done, jump in the hammocks. We do sleep with our teddy bears, and when I say teddy bears, I mean the thermal cameras, just in case something pops out of the bush. We can pull the thermal camera up and see what's creeping up towards our camp. So there is that, but Dean and one of the guys on the team, Shane and Guthrie, they went to bed. Myself and Buck, we sat up for another 40 minutes or so, just talking about the experience in the night, because we're just that pumped. And every now and again, you actually hear these two beings walking around in the darkness just outside of firelight, walking around, snapping branches, pushing things over. And then it got to a point where we're like, all right, I think it's time to go to bed. And I know this sounds strange when we've got these two beings 9.5 foot tall walk around our camp. For some reason, I think we're just in such a state of peace, we just comfortably went to sleep. Yeah. And the next morning we wake up to the stick symbol stuck in the ground.
Okay. Brave man. Yeah, I hammock camp, but it's usually I don't think it's anywhere near a 9-foot tall creature, but who knows? I sure wouldn't be sleeping though. All right, man. So you wake up and there's this stick structure, or stick symbol, right?
A bit of both. So okay. We had your traditional X marker. This one was only about 1.5 foot tall. In front of that little X marker was I think it was a right foot impression, about 1.5 inches into the ground. So I assume as they've placed that little X, that's the foot they were putting their weight on and placing that X. Off behind that was a big stick, a vertical stick stuck directly in the middle of the trail. And then there was another one, which is like a backwards number 4, a couple of meters off to the side of that. The backwards number 4 was kind of pointing to the direction of where these two beings were. But again, we don't have enough knowledge to know exactly what those stick symbols mean. We have found in this particular area actual symbols, like say for a triangle. Obviously there is a very high percentage of where sticks do fall on the ground. That's a given. Right. But when you find these symbols, if you pay attention to them, particularly the triangle symbols, each stick is actually laid under, over. It's not just a random landing. And once you start to pick up on that sort of sign, And we do this, we do see these symbols quite a fair bit. And to us now, like that, they stand out. To the average person, like this just sticks in the ground. But I think because we've been doing this for so long, we've found so many different types of symbols. I think our eyes are now trained to pick up on these things. But again, for the most part, a lot of these symbols are under, over, as they are laid on top of each other.
You sent me some and some of the pictures, and if you don't mind, I'd like to share them.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I'll add them to the video later on. I don't have them on my desktop. I got them on my phone still, but I'll definitely add them to our conversation here. It's interesting because it was what you were showing me and what you explained to me is they were making these symbols out of one stick. Like they would break it down and break joints kind of into it, but it would be one piece.
That is correct. So some of the symbols we found would resemble what a child would draw when they draw a house, just the outline of a house, the walls and the roof. But then where the 2 points of the roof meet, extend those points out further. And a lot of the time that's one stick. We've also found similar the letter A symbols, so a capital A. We found those again, as you said, a lot of these symbols are also one stick broken in multiple positions to create these symbols.
Yeah, so that would let you know.
On top of that,
that would let you know that it's not just a random stick falling. You know what I mean?
Correct, mate. Yeah, it's especially when you find these symbols where there's no tree canopy above as well, which also goes for the sticks that we find jammed in the ground. So a lot of these sticks can be very, very thin twigs, or we can find sticks that are 1 inch to 2 inches thick, jammed vertically in the ground about 6 inches deep. And again, there is a high percentage where sticks will fall from the trees and land stuck in the ground. But again, when there's no tree canopy above and in locations where people don't go, you can't really say it's a natural occurrence.
Yeah, you're right. And I got a question for you, and I don't know because I haven't watched every video or anything like that. Have you guys found anything like drawn into the dirt itself, like any kind of symbols drawn in? And there's a reason why I'm asking this. My reasoning is my buddy Rod that's in Australia, he goes down to a certain area, and I'll probably get the pronunciation wrong, but like Pilliga, is that right?
Pilliga, that's the one. Yep.
Okay. He goes down there.
I've got some good stories about the Pilliga for you too.
Yeah, well, he had some good encounters down there. He woke up and in his camp, it looked almost like a sundial had been drawn into the dirt. But later on, he came to believe that it was more like a drawing of an orange that they had left or had stolen from the camp. I can't remember exactly which one, but kind of looked like it was, if you would cut it horizontally, the orange, how the slices you'd be looking at it kind of like the face of a what. Yes. That's like the image that was in the ground. Right. It was pretty intriguing, and I thought maybe I'd ask you if you've had anything similar.
We have we have found similar things, but a lot of the time it is made out of sticks. We have found rock formations as well, made out of like baseball, tennis ball size rocks. As for symbols actually drawn into the dirt, not too much. We have had people come to us with their findings where they found things drawn on rocks with mud.
Really?
Especially like big handprints made from mud as well. But as for that kind of thing, maybe like Dean himself, he may have heard that a bit more. But for myself personally, it's more so the actual symbols made out of sticks and rocks.
Yeah. Okay. I got all kinds of questions, Gary. I'm just going to
mate, go for it.
One at a time, brother. First question, and I probably should have asked this, 15 minutes ago, but what got you started in this? Like, did you have a young encounter story, or what happened, man? What's up?
Well, I've always been interested in the the other side of life, which these days I refer to it as the real side of life.
Yes, sir.
The world that we're actually living, not the brainwashed world that we're taught to
Amen.
become part of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always had an interest in the Bigfoot, ET, ghosts, that kind of thing. Like many people, including people in the US yourself, for us it was very much Bigfoot. Yeah, that's just in America. And then as things happen, as you grow up and you learn, and you come to find out it's not just America.
Right.
It's very much Australia as well. But my very first actual night of going out and researching to try and look for the unexplained was basically out to a certain location on the border of Queensland and New South Wales, a place called Mount Lindsay. And on the road out there, someone's actually painted Yowie Crossing.
Wow.
So obviously at a location where people have actually seen one cross the road. So they painted Yowie Crossing across the road. So a good friend of mine, Wade Graham, and I, we decided to go out there, and we thought, well, we go out there on the bikes, our super sports, for a ride, and thought that's the best place to go check it out. So we went out there about 10 o'clock at night, and again, complete novices, had no idea what we're doing with white lights, like torches, flashing torches around the bush, which is one thing we don't do these days.
Right.
It basically led on to a time that it raised the bar very high for us. So before joining Dean and Australian Yowie Research, this particular night raised the bar that high. We struggled to actually compete with it, going out ourselves, trying to get that experience again. So it started off with in a particular location again where it says Yowie Crossing. Not too much happened, and we stayed there for about an hour and a half. And my mate Wade, he said he could hear some kind of a strange vocalization or strange sound coming further down the road. So at the time, I had my phone, the audio recorder on my phone, recording. And this is when I found out you never, ever turn the audio recorder off. So basically, yeah, so we jumped back in the car. I hit pause on the audio recorder. We drove about 3.5 miles back further down the road, pull up on the side of the road. As soon as we got out of the car, a big wall, there's a big wall lantana beside the road. So lantana is like a vine type plant covered in very little spikes and thistles. Behind that wall lantana, we got screamed at. Wow. What I can liken it to is like we go to a lot of death metal concerts.
Yeah.
The volume was like standing in front of the speakers at a death metal concert, and there's not many metal vocalists I've heard who can replicate what came out of this thing's mouth. We're talking about 20 feet away. This being would have been behind this wall lantana. We pulled up. It screams / roars at us. You actually feel the vibration go through your chest. So that obviously caught us off guard. I didn't think anything about the phone at the time. After the scream stopped, I then hit record. So again, you never turn the audio recorder off until the night is done.
Yeah, man.
Because the other, on the flip side of that as well is Yowie vocalizations caught on recorder are very rare. If I had have captured this vocal, that itself would have gone viral. But again, lessons learned. So I then press unpause on my phone to continue recording, and we stayed there for probably about another hour or so. And not long after this scream, we had these two other vocals from the north and the northwest. These hooah hooah type vocals.
Nice.
And every 15 minutes they'd vocalize again. But every 15 minutes they do it, those vocals were closer, and they're closer and closer and closer. And it got to the point where we ended up being in the middle of a triangle of three. And this is when, standing in the middle of the road, because I went at this particular location, it's deep in the forest. So even though we're standing on the road, we may as well be standing deep in the forest. It's that thick and that pitch black out there. Right. Pitch black to the point where Wade is standing 6 feet in front of me, and I could not see him. So I had my torch turned on, but the torch into my chest. And if you can picture being swarmed by 1,000 mosquitoes, just completely encompassing your head. something like, am I actually hearing things or not, or is it, or is it actually mosquitoes? So yeah, Wade was about 6 feet from me, so I decided to walk over towards Wade to ask if he can hear the same thing. When I got to Wade, I let the head of the torch off my body, off my chest, to allow some ambient light, and the look in his face gave me my answer. He can actually hear this encompassing, surrounding, swarming, buzzing of mosquitoes too. And seconds later, like it was choreographed, as if we'd planned to do this, we both spun around 180 degrees with our torches on this big wall of vine on the other side of the road. We then got very nervous and decided to call it a night. And this is probably about, don't quote me on this, but roughly about 6-7 years ago this happened.
Yeah.
And at the time, Brian Sullivan, Duke, he was very heavily to do with Sasquatch Chronicles, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I sent Duke Brian a message over Facebook and told him the scenario, what happened. And as far as he was concerned, it was potentially a couple of yowies hitting us with a bit of infrasound.
Yeah.
Which again, it would kind of make sense because there were no bugs, but it was definitely a loud buzzing that it swarmed us. So we jumped in the car, took off that night, and that pretty much kicked it off. And over time, I ended up getting a hold of Dean, told Dean the story, what happened, and from there I kept pulling on the back of his shorts, asking him to allow me to come out with him, and I'll carry your bags, I'll carry your water, trying to get out there with him. And lo and behold, the first 2 times that he called me up and goes, "Oh, are you keen to come out? We need an extra person." As it happens, bad timing. I know I've been tugging on your shorts, but unfortunately, mate, I apologise. I can't make it, and that happened twice. Then the third time, I said to the wife, "No, that's it. He's asked me twice. I bet he won't ask me a third time." So I said to the wife, "That's it. We're going." So jumped in the car, went and met up with Dean at a particular location. So I'm on the Gold Coast. I drove up to Brisbane to meet those guys. And that night we had something walking towards me through the long grass.
Wow. Good thing you went.
And from there, it's pretty much just been a roller coaster of ups and downs. And I've now found myself very deep in the cryptid field.
Yeah, buddy. All the way into the cryptid field. Oh man.
And I seem to be digging myself deeper and deeper each week.
Yeah. Well, if it's anything like it is here in the States, one rabbit hole will lead to another, and the next thing you know, man, there's no turning back. You're so wrapped up, and it's more than just one cryptid. You'll start learning that everything is real. Like you said, the real world. It's
correct.
It's all real.
Well, it's the same as you guys, man. Like we have a couple of different types of beings. We got the tall yowies, the doulagal, or the quinkin. Like Bigfoot, it's a collective term. So yowie is a collective term.
Okay.
Different areas will have different Aboriginal names for these beings, but yowie being a collective term, just like Bigfoot being a collective term. Then we've got the Junjiti, or the brown jacks, or the little fellas, which are your 3 to 5 foot tall yowies. We have reports of those. We actually took a report from just up the road from where I am last week about a roadside crossing of a Junjiti. So again, 3 to 5 foot tall, where the witness was on his way home about 11 o'clock at night in his WRX. So he's come on his way home, cranking about 100 kilometers an hour. So about 60 mile an hour, and had his high beams on, and he sees off to the left hand side this small, what he thought was a marsupial, maybe a wallaby or a rabbit or something like that, because he's driving a WRX with a body kit and that kind of thing. He doesn't want to hit it, doesn't want to bust up his body kit, so he slowed down. And then he got a bit closer again. He said he slowed down about 20 kilometers an hour, and this thing then stood up, legged it like Usain Bolt across the road in front of him.
What?
And he stopped for a sec, collected his thoughts, and thought, I need to tell someone. And that was only, that was last week. But I mean, even on saying that, man, look, being the biggest contact in the world for yowie sightings and encounters, we will literally get contacted minimum 5 times a day from people around Australia.
Really?
And that's
Man.
to do with Yowies, Junjiti, including Dogman. We even get a few Goatman reports as well. And then it all encompasses, you know, every different aspect, including UFOs, ETs, even shape shifting as well, which does jump into some of these reports as well.
Yeah. Now I'll imagine if it's kind of like some of our older stories, you know, American stories, the Yowie is going to be connected to the ET stuff, right? The Yowie in some camps it's connected to the shapeshifters, a more spiritual side versus a more physical side.
Yes. So well, I mean, even on saying that, mate, I mean, the problem that the community both here and over in the US have is they won't allow themselves to be open to different aspects
Right.
as much as they need to be. Like it or not, there are Bigfoot / Yowie encounters and sightings that do happen just before or just after a UFO sighting.
Yes.
Are they connected? I don't know. I can't give you the facts on that. But it does happen enough that you have to take it all on board. I mean, we've had our own encounters and sightings where we were out one night doing an investigation, and Dean was up the track by himself, and myself and Shane were back at camp, only about 50 meters from each other. But Dean came over the radio saying that he has something very big and very bipedal pushing its way through the bush, not so much towards him, but parallel to him. And then seconds after he says that, myself and Shannon hear, if you can picture what the sound of a stunt kite. So when a person who is flying a stunt kite, when they dive it has that deep flutter noise as a stunt kite dives. That crossed with a mechanical buzz.
Hmm.
And directly above us was an open tree canopy. So again, there was no trees. It was just clear sky with a tree canopy, but again, an open sky directly above us. And seconds after Dean comes out of the radio saying, "I've got something very, very big, very bipedal, pushing through branches, snapping branches." Shannon and I hear this buzzing mechanical kite type sound. We look directly up straight away, and there's a black V with no lights, nothing, just this big blacked out V flung directly over the top of us.
Yeah.
So again, people need to, if you don't believe it, it's fine. It's the same as with the thermal images. If you don't believe it, that's fine. Obviously, people need to find their own way to come to terms or to come to an understanding, or just accept that this is what happened. And it's the same with Bigfoot and UFO encounters, that it does happen. If you believe it, great. If you don't stress. It's all good. Everyone's learning as we go. So just all you need to do is take it in. Simple as that.
I agree because there are people that are just diehard one side or the other. Like, it can't be something physical. It has to be something spiritual because of, you know, the way the tracks work. Sometimes, you know, you'll be on a set of tracks and then they just disappear. Stops in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I mean, even on saying that, mate, people often forget that with the size of these beings and the gait of their walk, people forget that they need to look not a meter in front, like for our gate. They need to look possibly 3 meters ahead. And if there's no track impression, look for thick grass or a log or a rock or something you could have stepped on, or did it grab a tree, go up into a tree? Right. That does make up a lot of the answers that people have when they find one track where to go. However, on saying that, there are times where even we do find a succession of 4 or 5 tracks that do just disappear.
Yeah.
So there is both sides of the fence there.
Well, that's a good point, though. You know, look further than what you would think a step would be. Look to the left, look to the right, look up. You know.
Correct.
That's good. You personally, and I don't want to, you know, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, Gary, but if someone would ask you, like, I don't know, me right now, what do you think? We'll just use the blanket term Yowie, because there's no way I can pronounce the other ones as beautifully as you do. I wrote down brown jacks because that sounded like a much easier way to call them. But if I were to ask you, what do you think Yowie is after all the research you've done over the last 6 or 7 years? Where do you land, man? Do you have more of an answer now than you did to begin with?
I've definitely changed my point of view over the years. It did start off with it's just it's an animal, it's a type of ape.
Yep.
These days, I definitely lean more toward they are a type of people.
Okay.
Did they come over the Bering Strait through Indonesia, then get landlocked and that kind of thing? There is a high chance of that. But I personally definitely believe that they are a type of people. And my opinion is based on our findings, our encounters, our sightings, our interactions, and also the sightings and encounters of people that do come to us from all around Australia. We've even had people from over your side that have contacted us as well. Not too many, but we do get a couple here and there that do tell us of their encounters, sightings over there. And the thing is, they do that many human type activities and aspects that you can't say that they aren't highly intelligent. And that's another point that people often do, is they don't give these beings enough credit for their intelligence.
I agree.
They are super intelligent. Like, obviously not when people say that, yes, they're intelligent, but they're not human intelligent. I think they are very close. But the thing is, we have evolved to be intelligent for what we do in our lives with the way that the modern world lives. These beings have no need for that, so they are highly intelligent for the world that they live in. It's the way that they move through the bush, we can't replicate.
Right.
I know we can get damn close. We can try the best we can, but we can't replicate the way that they move through their environment, just like they can't replicate what we do.
Right.
So I think it's just two different trains of thought of the intelligent aspects of these beings. We recently had some scat sent to a university, roughly about 6 weeks ago. So it was actually, about 6 weeks ago. We had the results come back. So with the worm count and the bacteria count, that kind of thing, so as people may know, they can determine what kind of animal it is
Right.
by the worm count, the bacteria count in the scat. If it drops below a certain level, it's only one or two things, human or ape. So the scat that I found in this particular creek, it came back at those very low levels. And the best the university could come up with was, we don't know. They try to give us some reasons about, maybe through transportation, it wasn't transported properly, it was kept out of the freezer too long. But that doesn't make sense. Like, Dean has had this in the past where he sent off scat samples and they come up as, I don't know, and then that sample's disappeared, which I assume this sample probably disappear as well. But luckily we did get the results, and it's basically come back as unknown.
Wow.
And I think that, I think I've gone off a bit of a tangent here. I forgot what I was talking about.
No,
It
points to it, man. That this could be some kind of people.
That's the one, mate. I mean, again, like the symbols that we find, the things they do that require hands, the intelligence of staying out of sight, not being seen, tapping on windows, watching children, watching TV, leaving fruit for people at certain locations at the front door on a regular basis. Yes, there are some resemblance to apes, and there are obviously some sightings and encounters that do come across as very ape-like. But for the most part, if you put it down to a percentage-wise kind of thing, the high percentage is the encounters and sightings that do come through to us are more of a human aspect as opposed to an ape aspect.
Yeah, man, I love that. That's a great answer. Yeah, that's what I'm getting from other guys that I talk to in Australia. It's more easily accepted, I think. it's more easily accepted over there than it is here, that we're looking at another type of person. There's a lot of resistance in the States about that. A lot of resistance. It just, I don't know. I think just culturally, you got it together a little bit more than we do. You know what I mean? You guys are a little more accepting.
I think I sort of look at it as like yes, especially over the last couple of years, the Australian public are becoming a lot more accepting of it and a lot more open to it. We do still have a lot of pushback on the subject itself, but unfortunately, like we don't have the openness to the subject like you guys do, with bars and taverns and general stores and that kind of thing. Just having that Bigfoot aspect about them.
Right.
We do have that here and there, but it's very rare, very, very one-off. But it's also a thing like if you can get people talking about it, a lot more people have had sightings and encounters than what you would originally think. Like I live in the Gold Coast hinterland, so on a particular mountain, the next mountain north to where the thermals were captured, and there's high yowie activity up there. A lot of the locals won't talk about it, but if you can get locals talking about it, then often stories do come out. And with the next mountain over Springbrook, where the thermals were taken, if we go to a coffee shop up there and we are wearing the Yowie Hunters t-shirts, we will have locals come up to us and say hello and say, oh, last week, Tuesday last week, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, took the dog for walks up, stepped out, or I was going to bed, something tapped in the window, I looked up and there's a face, look at it. So I think if people can find a happy, safe space to talk, they will talk.
Yeah.
It is definitely getting better. The subject over here is definitely opening up a lot more, especially since even with the sticks in the ground that we find. Again, I will say this again, there is a high percentage that do fall naturally, but there's a percentage that don't. Once we made it public that we find these sticks in the ground, we started having people from all over Australia coming to us with the same thing. I guess because they started to think a bit more openly about this random stick in the ground. We've even had people contact us where they've pulled up in the bush to go for a walk, and when they've come back to the car, there's a 3-inch stick jammed in the ground in front of their car.
Yeah,
like that's not going to happen naturally. So I think the more that we are happy to talk about these subjects and these encounters, experiences, more and more people will do come to us in more of a happy, safe zone to talk about their encounters and so on. Some of them don't want to be put out in the public arena with their names, because we do have a lot of people in the professions of police, military, science, doctors that do come to us, especially the military, high-ranking military, that do contact us, but for obvious reasons they can't go giving their name out to the public and that kind of thing. Yeah. For example, the army base that backs onto the mountain that I live on, there was a encounter there not too long ago where the sergeant planned a drill where the team would have to track him for 3 days through the army base, so basically to practice their protocols and their skills.
Yeah.
They'd have to try and track him over 3 days and try and catch up to him. Over those 3 days, he had something paralleling him and staying with him for the whole 3 days. At night time, it stayed just outside the firelight. During the day, he could hear it paralleling him. He knew what it was. And then obviously those kind of people come to us and let us know. Again, they can't tell us who they are, but they're letting us know what happened. We have a very famous encounter where a man of a science background would go to a particular national park a bit further north, and he's been running these trails for 20 years. And it is an area of high activity, but for 20 years he's seen nothing, heard nothing. And then one day he's running through this national park, and he can hear a rock clacking in the creek down below. It caught his attention enough that he decided to drop in near the creek and have a look.
Yeah.
When doing so, he sees a young yowie, and when I say young, I'm still talking 6 foot, but in the creek playing, swinging around like a child would, swinging its arms, splashing water. kicking rocks. So that right there is enough to drop your jaw.
Oh yeah.
So he's standing roughly about 40 meters away, jaw dropped, watching this young child play in the creek. It then notices him. It lifts its head, sees him, and then without taking its eyes off him, it makes a few whistles and pops with its mouth. And next thing, mum or dad stick their head out, see him, step out, scream/roar at him. He legs it. He's gone. And again, like he's of a science background. He is on PTSD medication to this day.
Yeah, man.
Again, he's another person because of his profession. We can't make his name public, but it's a common occurrence, and that's basically what Australian Yowie Research is here for. That's the reason Dean started Australian Yowie Research, 27 years ago, because when he had his first encounters, he didn't know what was going on. He had an idea, and he got chased out of the bush, something paralleling him through the bush. And if he didn't make it back to the car in the street light, there's a high chance he would never have started AYR, because he wouldn't have come out of the bush. And because he had nowhere to go, nowhere to talk to, that's why he started Australian Yowie Research. And since then, we are the go-to, the beacon of light, the safe space for people in Australia to come to. Again, over the years, it doesn't stop. As I said, like we get contacted like 5 emails a day from people around Australia with their encounters and sightings. Sometimes it's a very significant encounter. Sometimes it's just to let us know that there's some activity going on at the back of this person's property where nothing major has happened, but they've seen some things, they've heard some things, but we just want to let you guys know.
Yeah.
And then we'll have someone else come to us again, going back to the Pilliga, like you spoke about before, which was that Rod Benfield that you spoke about.
Oh, his last name is Rupa, Rod Rupa.
Oh, okay.
At least that's who the emails come from. He might be using a different name.
No, it's all good. Yes, to go back to the Pilliga, I was on the phone to a guy in the Pilliga about a month ago. I was expecting like a quick half-hour phone call. 3.5 hours later, we're still on the phone, and he's had activity going on at his property at the Pilliga for 20 plus years with a certain troop. And they're at the point where they have a mutual respect for each other. They're not on go have a beer terms. They just have a mutual respect for each other.
Nice.
To the point where he can walk through his property in the middle of the night with no torches. They know who he is. He's okay. There was an instance where he was bringing, I think he's a couple of young guys from his workplace, and are going back to his property for a few drinks after work, and the car got bogged on the dirt road on the way there. But because he knew where he was, he knew that the quickest way was to beeline straight to the bush to the property. And these two young guys that were with him, they've been on the terps a bit, so they're a little bit off character than he was himself. And these guys want to slow down, have a smoke, and have a rest. He's like, guys, no, you need to stay with me. We need to keep moving. And it progressed to the point where they could hear this Yowie troop around them and following them through the bush. And it's basically that he was trying to get these two young guys going because he had a mutual understanding with this troop, but there's two other males. And as we know, with the animal world and the human world, more if there's more males, then that's more competition, more of a threat. Again, that's to do with animals. That's to do with us as a human species as well. So he's trying to get these two young guys to hurry up and stay with him. And he got to the point where he said, look, either stay with me or you don't. If you want to stay safe, you need to stay right on my heels. We need to get out of here. Because from his point of view, this Yowie troop was focusing their energy, their intent more on these two young guys that were dragging behind.
Oh yeah.
And they to be safe, they all made it out. But again, like this has gone for 20 years in the Pilliga, where he's had animals killed, which is also one of his horses was killed with a metal stake punched right through it.
What?
The guts were ripped open, and the only thing taken was the liver. He had his chicken incubator boxes, or the lids were lifted up one day when he came home from work, all the eggs were gone. You found up the paddock a pile of eggs, and with each egg had a finger-sized hole punched in one end, and the contents taken. So basically, it's a whole bunch of protein shots.
Yeah.
He's had other instances where they've actually come up and tried to open the door to the house, and again, where he lives, it's a location where he's deep in the bush with his property. There's no real need to lock the house. So sometimes, well, I should say, he used to leave the house open for the dogs. The dogs can come in the house, so they've got shade and cover from the heat. And that's now changed. He now locks the doors because he had times where he's made a fresh loaf of bread. He's come home, the house is turned upside down, the bread's gone, fruit's gone, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And now the reason that he contacted us is because he's had what he thinks is a new troop either move into the area or move through the area. And this new troop don't understand the mutual relationship he has with the troop that's already been there. And there's a male Yowie that has been hanging around his property and has been a little bit disruptive if he goes out to the shed at night. Again, before he can go out in the dark with no issues. Now he's getting growled at, he's getting yelled at, he's having things thrown at him. He now has to lock the doors, and he can hear the doors trying to be opened. And there was even an instance while we were talking on the phone. Again, I was on the phone, so I can't say this is fact,
right.
But I could hear a tapping in the background on the phone. He then goes quiet for about 10 seconds, then comes back and goes, "Can you hear that?" I said, "Yeah, I can actually. What is that?" He said, "One's back, and it's tapping on the air conditioning box at the window." So that's the kind of regular activity that this guy's getting.
Yeah.
And again, as you may have heard with the Pilliga as well, there's certain truck stops through the Pilliga that with the trucking community in Australia, they know that there's certain truck stops that you do not stop at. If you need to go to the toilet or you need to sleep, anything like that, certain truck stops you do not stop at. You push on through to the next truck stop, because if you do stop at certain truck stops, you will. It's not like you may have something happen. Something it's ifs, buts, and maybes. It is guaranteed that if you stop at certain truck stops, your truck will get rocked. You will get screamed at. You will have things thrown at you. You may have gear taken off the truck or taken yourself. There's been plenty of instances where truckers have been sleeping in their cab. The truck starts rocking. They wake up and they look out the driver's or the passenger's window, and there's this face up at 12 foot high, super angry, super mean. They scream at them. The truck gets rocked. So again, there's certain truck stops in the Pilliga that the trucking community know that you do not stop at.
Yeah. Man. So this guy that lives in the Pilliga, how is he going to establish boundaries? Or because it's not going to be a dominance thing, it's going to have to be a mutual respect,
I think he's pretty much hoping that this new troop or this new male that's come in the area is just passing through.
Yeah.
I did say to keep me updated if this male does cause any other issues, and I haven't heard from him, so I assume that this male was just moving through the area.
Yeah. Now, with the popularity of Yowie Research, I'm sure it's growing. Are there a lot of groups popping up now? In the last couple of years, I know here we had the whole COVID pandemic. Everybody just started going outside and getting back in touch with nature, trying to hike again, someplace you could stay away from other people or whatever. And is it picking up popularity down there? And why not go to one of those truck stops and get all the research they need,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely has picked up in the last couple of years. Like I tended to notice a big spike when some friends of mine, they were at a bushwalking trail a bit further west, and they found this huge footprint, which you may have seen. It did the rounds around the world as well. A massive footprint with a woman's running shoe in the footprint. So some friends of mine, they found that, they sent it to me. I involved Dean, and that then went to make on that went on to be placed on the front page of the Gold Coast paper.
Nice.
And since then, I noticed a big spike. Facebook groups, they spiked from, say, having a couple of hundreds now having a couple of thousand members. Lots more little pop-up research teams popping up on Facebook as well, for enthusiasts and that kind of thing. And it also spiked more people coming out of the woodwork and telling of their stories and encounters. Unfortunately, like you guys have as well, unfortunately, there is a percentage that are just there for shits and giggles. They're not there with an invested interest to actually take the research seriously, or even just to be interested in the general sense. They are there to poke fun and have a laugh. But either way, I guess all publicity is good publicity, as they say. But yeah, definitely, the last couple of years has really seen a massive spike with the Australian community.
Fantastic. I love it.
We've actually had a lot of Aboriginal people start coming to us as well, because ancient knowledge of the Aboriginal people, it is starting to thin out a lot with the younger generation. I guess because they're not all of them, but there is a percentage that aren't bothered about their heritage as such.
Yeah.
So we are getting a lot of elders coming to us as well that want to pass on the knowledge for the fact that they want it down on paper, because they don't want to lose that ancient knowledge that's been passed down through the Aboriginal generations. Because as you know, especially with the Native American tribes, it's not put on paper; it's passed down word of mouth.
Yeah.
And they are in fear of losing this old world knowledge. So yeah, again, we do have a lot of elders that are coming to us to have their knowledge and their stories that have been passed down put on paper, so they aren't lost forever.
You know what? That might be the most valuable aspect of the group altogether, man. Because that history, that knowledge, like you said, that should be precious. That should be something that we cling to. And that we take it for truth. I really believe that, because there's a reason why it's made it down through the generations like it has.
Correct. Well, it's that saying that you see getting around, like with rock art and cave paintings, that kind of thing. Like it was painted on the wall because they saw it.
Exactly.
It was put in paintings that are hundreds of years. Like when you go back and look at old paintings with UFOs in the background,
yeah,
it's in there because they saw it.
Yeah.
It's not just a random thing that they decided to put up there. And when you see some of these paintings are 200 years old, you see cave art that's 1,000 years old. It's not just a random occurrence that they decided to do some fun doodles and see what happens.
Right.
They're very black and white, and they painted it because they saw it. So it's when you have to start taking that seriously and listen to the people, show some actual interest in these things, and again you come back to find the real world that we actually live in. As I always say to people, your cup should never be full. We know nothing.
I love that too. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Your cup should never be full. Yes, sir. I agree with that 100%. All right, Gary. I've had you on here for about an hour. Let me ask you, or let me give you an opportunity to just get out all your points of contact, where you would want people to reach you at, send you love letters, marriage proposals from this video. How can they get a hold of you guys?
Okay, so our main point of contact is yowiehunters.com. So you go to the website there. You can click on the contact button. You can also go to the Facebook page, which is Australian Yowie Research Official. Make sure you put that official on the end of it, because there is another Facebook group, which is Australian Yowie Research, but it has nothing to do with us. So it will come up as Australian Yowie Research Official.
Okay.
You can contact us through there. You can either post on the page, but the best point of contact with that one is actually to message the page itself. Don't feel alone. Don't feel like it's a bit off character to do so. Again, we get 5 emails a day. Even with the messenger side of it on Facebook, where people send us videos from their encounters or things they found. There's one particular video where some guys were coming to work, and there's about 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and they come around the corner, and they saw something run off, and they pulled up, and they found a wild pig ripped in half, and there's big footprints through the red sand taking off. So I assume that they've come to work at this rural location and disturbed a yowie getting its breakfast sorted out. So we've had these kind of videos sent to us. We've had videos sent to us with something in the bush at the back of the property running back and forth screaming. I got sent it. A contact of mine a couple of days ago sent me some photos of their clothesline in the backyard. One of the clothes pegs was taken off and clipped to a branch high above. This particular contact, whenever they have prawns on the back patio, they'll start having tree knocks start happening. I guess as the smell of the prawns goes through the forest, soon there's tree knocks start happening. Have them peeking in windows. So yeah, please don't feel like you're out of place contacting us. That's what we're here for. We're here to give you a safe space to talk about your sightings and encounters with no ridicule, no negativity, no animosity. So yeah, please come to us. But I will say that we are very deep in the circle. We do get some people that do contact us with their lies. For example, I called out a guy a little while ago from South Australia who decided to use part of video 2 of the Sierra sounds.
Oh wow!
And take a section out of that and say, "Oh, have a listen. This is what I recorded in South Australia." And as you know, as yourself as well, we're all very well versed on the Sierra sounds.
Right.
So as soon as I heard it, I called him out on it. Of course, I was the arsehole because I called him out on it.
Of course.
The same person, if more so people in the US, not so much here. If you remember the Chukka Bigfoot, so from Will Ferrell's movie Land of the Lost,
right?
Chukka. Yeah. Yep. I can't exactly remember where it was taken. It might have been Georgia in 2018. I think if you Google Chukka Bigfoot, it usually comes up of this white greyish kind of being coming down the side of a hill. This person sent us that photo as well and said South Australia. Again, we're inside the circle. So as soon as I saw it, mate, that's Chukka Bigfoot. I even sent him screenshots of my search on Google, Chukka Bigfoot. There's 6 different pictures of his picture that he took. So again, we are here for people for a safe space.
Yes.
But we are very well versed in the Bigfoot world as well. So 99% of the time, if something like that does happen, we will know straight away. So please, no negativity like that. Let's keep a safe space, and go for it. We are here for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gary. Is there anything else we need to make sure we get mentioned on here, or are we good?
Oh, mate, I can talk for hours. I can tell you hours. I'll give you another quick one.
Yeah,
which will probably turn into a quick couple.
That's fine.
So the location that we got the thermal images that night, we've obviously been back to this location multiple times. And there was one night we were back there, and when you follow the trail, which is deep in the forest, very rarely used by bushwalkers. You go east from camp, and it gets to a point where the track forks off in two different directions. So this particular night, we were up. There was 4 of us up there. We split into pairs, and the whole point of this exercise was to. One team goes left, one team goes right. We go, say, 1 kilometre or 2 down these trails, and we sit in the bush. The whole point is just sit in the bush, take it all in, listen, and see if we can come across something. We've all got thermal cameras, and we can all keep a good eye on it. And just before we got to the fork in the road, Dean goes, "Oh, we forgot to fold out stools. Does anyone want stools?" And yeah, we all want stools. So Dean and myself have decided to go back to camp, leave Shannon and Buck where we stopped, and we'll be back in a sec. And what I generally do is when we go out, the person that I partner up with, I won't expect you to do it, because if I start talking about it, it makes it harder. So I will mimic your footsteps. So it comes across as one person walking as opposed to two.
Nice.
Again, I won't let you know I'm doing it, because then it could trick things up and it makes it harder. So I'll just do it naturally. So Dean's a bit smaller than myself. We're wearing hoodies. I'm walking about 2 meters behind Dean. And again, I'm matching his footsteps. Back where Buck and Shannon were, Buck is just using the thermal camera. He's panning around, just having a look. There's a possum. There's a small heat signature over there, which could be bats or birds or whatever. And next, as we're pretty much back to camp, Buck comes over the radio going, "Did one of you guys just run off into the bush?" Like, no, we're together. We're coming into camp. He goes, no. Where are you right now? We're coming into camp. Did one of you guys run off into the bush? No, we're together. And the next 10 seconds, Buck's coming over the radio. He wasn't very happy. I'll just put it that way. So basically what he saw is a large hooded being. So again, with the conical head,
Yep.
Walking on the trail. So what he thought was the person in front was Dean. The large conical being behind that person was me. Because when we're walking, because I'm walking behind Dean, I'm bigger than Dean, he couldn't see Dean. So when he's panned around, he thinks I'm Dean and something behind me is me.
Wow.
So we're walking up, and I've got a Yowie doing what I'm doing to Dean, copying his footsteps. It's copying my footsteps, walking directly behind me. Probably it's still like I'm 2 meters behind Dean. Dean's a couple. This being, I assume, was 3 to 5 meters behind me. It's walking along, and then it detours off into the bush. Hence why Buck's come out of the radio going, "Did one of you guys just run off into the bush?" No, we're together. And the crazy thing is that we've come to find, it's even the night with the thermals, and reports from over your side as well, is that when these beings want to be heard, they will be heard.
Yeah.
When they don't, they will not be heard. I heard nothing. I heard nothing walking behind me. I heard nothing disappear into the bush to the side of me, which doesn't make sense because it is thick bush. When we go through there, you can hear us moving through the bush. How do these beings not get heard? I know that they live in these conditions. They're well versed in how to maneuver through their conditions. But with a being that's 2 to 500 kilo, 6 to 14 foot tall.
Yeah.
I don't know. They do it. And it's the same when Buck got those thermals. When they arrived, he didn't hear them arrive. It was only that he was panning around. He's like, "What's that?" And there they are. They did their thing and they stepped out. And then when they left, no noise.
Mm.
And then half an hour later, they're walking around camp and we can hear them. And then the night that I got the thermals, the first thermals down on that same ridge line, again I heard them arrive like a bulldozer. And when they left, there was nothing.
Nothing.
So to me, it comes back to the woo side. I personally don't understand why people think that they can't be flesh and blood and still have extraordinary abilities. We as humans, we have the third eye, the pineal gland.
Yes.
Which when you open that up, the possibilities and the amazing experiences that you can have once you open up your pineal gland.
Yes.
That's us. We are flesh and blood. So we I don't care what people say. You don't like this, too bad. We have spiritual abilities, extraordinary abilities.
Absolutely.
We have that. So I don't understand why a 10-foot being who is connected with nature can't have those beings as well, being flesh and blood and have extraordinary abilities. You don't like it, too bad. Unfortunately, there's more reports and more sightings that outweigh your opinion than what your beliefs won't let you believe.
Amen.
Basically, open yourselves up or suck it up. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if one person reports it, I think Dr. John Bindernagel said this to Wes Germer once. If one person says it, take it in, whatever. If multiple people say it, and especially from different locations, then you need to start paying attention to it.
Absolutely.
And that's what we have with Australian Yowie Research. We've had multiple people come to us with shape-shifting stories where 3 people have witnessed the Yowie turn into a goanna. Other instances similar to that, turn into a cat. Is it a point of perception from your mind and not being able to understand what's going on, seeing a Yowie itself, and your mind has gone into a protective state, so you can work it out. You can feel safe inside yourself because seeing Yowie itself is a point that will alter your reality. So again, your mind is trying to protect you from something you weren't ready to see,
Right.
or is it actually something is going on? But we do get more than a couple of reports of shapeshifting, and then well, we even have our own Skinwalker Ranch down south in New South Wales, which a guy by the name of Attila Caldi, he's the one to speak to about that. But yeah, like we have our own Skinwalker Ranch. We have dogman reports, we have goatman reports. Again, we have UFOs before and after Yowie sightings, which we've encountered ourselves. So I think it just comes back to, you don't need to go down that road of yes, this happens, that happens, but you need to be open to all aspects of it, and we need to stop hating each other for it. Just because this person over here has an opinion of what he may have seen and encountered doesn't mean you should write him off,
Right.
because you can't grasp that. Just take it in. And it's the same as like, I've got my personal beliefs that I don't agree with, or I can't go down that road of what someone else says, but I won't write them off. I'll take it in as another aspect of this world that I think, as the Pentagon starts to release more UFO footage and that kind of thing. So we are, the world is opening up. Our consciousness is opening up. The global vibration is rising. So if we can all focus on staying positive, take it all in, because unfortunately we don't know. I'm sure there are people that do know what Yowies are. I'm sure there's people like government aspects of it. Like we have government aspects here where we know damn well that the government knows what they are, including going and taking one out because it was causing issues. And SAS team literally had to go do the lone camper scenario at a particular location because this particular rogue male was causing issues with bushwalkers, with kids playing in the national park.
Wow.
And it got to the point where the SAS had to go set up a lone camper. So they had their sniper positions and lone camper set up. So basically one person with a small fire, and he's there by himself. While you got other military position around. And it got to the point where the lone camper came over the radio saying, "Look, guys, I'm really starting to freak out. I can hear things that are really putting me on edge." And again, this comes back to the I guess you say that the woo side, or also the extraordinary abilities that these beings have. So basically, what happened was, it was noted by one of the military guys, one of the snipers, that they have contact. Something is coming into the campsite, and they had tripwires set out around the campsite. This again, this is on record. This actually happened. This Yowie is coming into the campsite, and the snipers and the other military have tripwires set up to set off explosives, or not. I'm having a blank. The tripwires to set off signal flares to alert the other military where this being's coming in. This being has walked up to a tripwire in the dark. I'm not specific on the exact time, but this is at least 9-10 o'clock at night, so easily dark enough. no daylight savings. This being has walked up. It has seen the tripwire, and it has walked around the tree that the tripwire was attached to, and then headed in toward the headed in toward the lone camper. It got to the point where they gave the green light to go ahead and take it out, and that's when this being took off running in a different direction, hit a tripwire, signal flares are going off, and they took care of the situation.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So that plus other instances, the government definitely know what they are.
Yeah.
So again, like extraordinary abilities, we need to open ourselves up to just be more accepting of different aspects. Again, you don't have to believe in it; just be more accepting. A prime example is we had some communication at a certain property on the same mountain I live in, where we did exchanges with quartz and smoky quartz crystals, and these crystals would disappear for 3-4 weeks, and when they return, and the Yowies would arrange symbols and put the crystals inside these symbols and that kind of thing. So we took a cast from this area. Out of all the track impressions we found in there, we only found one track that was castable, which was only a 14-inch. We have found an 18-inch track in there, but it was only a 14-inch, which was a succession of 4, but again, only one was castable. 6 toes, 5 inches across the hill, 7 inches across the bridge, which we think was a female, not a male. And we had amazing, over the course of a couple of months, we had these ongoing interactions where I even took my daughter in there, where like she gifted a pink scrunchie to them. And every time we go back in there, her scrunchie would have moved around from different symbols. And what they do with some of these symbols is they get a branch, they'd snap part of the branch, but they wouldn't let the bark snap. They'd peel the bark down and use the bark and tie other sticks to it, or tie that broken stick in a certain manner, or they'd tie my daughter's scrunchie inside of that as well.
Wow.
They tied vines together. We had a point where we had 2 palm trees, a specific type of palm where the trunk only gets, say, 2 inches thick at the most, but they become like, say, 3 to 4 meters tall. And these 2 palms are about 6 meters apart, and they bent these 2 palms over together and tied them together. Now, when I say tied together, I don't mean tied like we tie our shoelaces or tie a rope. These leaves were tied like a traditional woven basket. So if you just think of a woven basket made out of reeds,
Yeah.
that's how they tie these 2 palms together. And they are still there to this day. Unfortunately, the activity in this spot has stopped, but those 2 palms are still tied there together. And this is on this particular mountain where it's been constant activity for many years.
Man,
And I think I just went down another tangent.
it's all right, man. I love it. You know, you say you could talk for hours. I could listen for hours. You know, I just
Mate, I've got so many stories and encounters, and even as simple as that night that we got the thermals, like we had camp set up, Buck was up there capturing the thermals, and I went halfway up between camp and Buck, so I've got his back. I didn't want to go too close because I didn't want to ruin any interactions or anything that he was having up there. And I even found a point where when we went in there to where these 2 beings were standing, I tracked them through this bush, and I tracked them to a point where there was a big tree about 3 meters to my right behind me. I tracked them right up to where there's these 2 foot impressions standing beside this tree, and I'm sitting in a camp chair. I can see camp. I can see Buck. I had no idea that there's a 9-foot being standing 3 meters behind me.
wow.
What's this clown doing? You know? It just keeps on going. And even on saying that, like there was a point where when Buck was getting those thermals, we're listening to Buck talk about the thermals, talking about what he's looking at. I replied to Buck saying, would you like me to come up there so you're not alone by yourself? Because he also had some sounds behind him, but because he's focusing in a certain direction to the north, watching these 2 beings, if he stops filming, he may not have got what he got because there's something moving behind him. So I come over the radio and I said, Buck, would you like me to come up to your location so you're not by yourself? Yeah, cool, no worries. I started making my way up there, and he comes over the radio saying, stop, 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 they've seen you. What he watched in the thermal camera was them looking at him in his direction, doing their thing. I got to a certain point and they look at him, they look at me, they look at him, they look at me. That's when he goes, stop, 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 they've seen you. That's when I went back to camp, and then after that is when he filmed those worldwide videos, or worldwide video, I should say. And it's, and we do have an overnight expedition coming up this Saturday night, because we are coming up on the 12-month anniversary of those thermals. So we are actually doing a split 2-team expedition, because the creek below, which is the creek where I found the scat, we've had big X markers, we've had weird vocalizations in there as well. We even had the mumbler. So if you think of an old man with a really deep voice, mumbling up the creek, Buck went up, because we were basically having a bit of rest stop, having a drink, having something to eat up this creek, and we heard the mumbler. Buck went up the creek to see if he could see what was going on. He heard something heavy move up the hill. So there's some kind of connection between this creek and up top where the thermals were captured. So this Saturday coming, we are doing an anniversary expedition night, and again we'll be split. So myself and 2 of the other guys will be just above the creek, and Dean, Buck, and one of the other guys will actually be up top at the thermal location, and we're going to see if we can catch them, or see if there's some kind of correlation between this creek that goes up to the thermal location. I do have information which you are the first to hear about this, outside of our circle. You are number one. I guarantee that. We do have information from someone who says that there is a possible burial site up there. So when I say burial site, I don't mean Aboriginal burial site, Yowie burial site, and apparently we have been very close to it. This person has said, when you do find it, you will know what it is. Do not stay there. Find it, see it, get out of there, because they will come running. So whether that's true or not, I can't guarantee. But maybe that's why we are having so much activity in this one spot, in the creek below and the ridgeline where the thermals are captured, because there is a burial location somewhere in there. Which we as it is with us as Homo sapiens, human beings, we hold graveyards in high regard, because it's our loved ones.
Absolutely.
You'd assume it'd be the same for them. They've got their burial site with their loved ones, which they would be highly protective of. So again, maybe that's why we do have so much activity.
Yeah.
It's like myself and Shannon were in there 2 weeks ago to the lower location. So you've got the creek. There's an access point just above that, and then you go up higher to another access point, which is where the thermals were taken. When Shannon and I walked in there, I don't know if it's because, see, myself and Shannon have a lot of ET experiences as well, like UFOs, as well as actual ET sightings. So I don't know if there's some kind of connection there that Shannon and I have with the land, with the skies, with something spiritual. And when we get together, it amplifies some kind of, I guess, like an aura maybe. But as soon as we walked into this location 2 weeks ago, after being out doing our thing, we got a whistle in the valley below and a tree knocked directly above us.
Nice.
And that's the location that will be in there Saturday night. The guys will be up above. But again, maybe with this burial location, which again, you are the first to hear about that.
Thank you.
Maybe that's why it's a point of interest, an area of high activity.
Absolutely.
So if it is, we obviously got to try and do what we do in a high manner of respect. Either way, we do show a high level of respect for these areas. We go in. I myself and Shannon will go off in different directions and meditate. And the reason we do so is to put out that positive intention to the area, that we mean no disrespect. Because as we, the land is full of energy. Animals can pick up on energies, just like dogs can pick up on air energy.
Yeah.
Being a positive person or a negative person, dogs pick up on that. And we find that, again, go through our own experiences and from people that come to us with their encounters and experiences, that energy has a big part to play. If you don't like hearing that, too bad. That's just how it is. Not you personally. I mean, like people out there that have that, that have their own thoughts and beliefs. I'm sorry, but from our experience, energy has a big part to play.
Yes.
So we will go and meditate, put out that energy into the area, and show a lot of respect. If we have a fire, we will scrub up the area once we're done. So not leaving just a fire, just a random fire sitting in the middle of the bush.
Right.
We do cover it up. Any rubbish, we will scour the area. Make sure every single piece of rubbish is picked up. We don't go taking chainsaws and axes and that kind of thing. We will find deadfall if we do need a fire, or we will actually cut our own small amount of firewood in. Again, we don't go cutting down trees. We don't go taking chainsaws.
Right.
And that again comes back to torches and light. Like we have headlamps, but we don't use white light outside of camp. From our camp, we use white light because we want to attract these beings and let them know that this is where we're camping. But as soon as we leave our campsite, we only use, it's either red light or no light. So again, if we're heading off a kilometre down the track or half a k into the bush, it's either red light or no light. And again, when I say no light, a lot of hunters will understand that. Like once your eyes adjust, again, that depends on the location. If it's very thick, it's a lot harder to adjust. So we will use red light mostly so we can see where each other are, but also red light doesn't carry through the bush like white light does. And I'm saying that we won't use white light outside of the campsite because it is very intrusive. So we want these beings to come to us and feel comfortable. So we're not flashing white light around through the bush. And again, that comes back to the meditation, putting out that intention, showing a high level of respect for the area when we are in there. We do play certain music. We do find there's some kind of attraction to classical music.
Really?
I don't understand that. I'm not a fan of classical, but it does. It does. I don't know if it's about frequency or tones, but they do show interest to classical music. And yeah, like but otherwise, mate, we do have other locations throughout the Gold Coast hinterland that we do have high activity. We have people contact us that want us to come down the location. But unfortunately, you are like 1,000 kilometres away. As a lot of people know, and as a lot of people don't know, Australia itself is the same size pretty much as northern US.
Right, it's
so
huge.
When someone says, yeah, so and when someone says like, we've got heavy activity, you guys need to come down here and guarantee you'll see something. Well, that's great, but you're 2,500 kilometres away, and we are self-funded. So it's not just a case of jump in the cars and go.
Right.
Which is the main reason why we stay around our areas, because we have high activity in our areas, and it's easier and cheaper to get to.
Wow, man, yes, Gary, thank you, man. I've loved every minute of this conversation, and I hope that you got this expedition coming up this weekend. Maybe in a week or two, I can get you to come back and talk to me about it. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, for sure, mate. That'd be great, mate. I've got really positive gut feelings about this year. I think with our research and trying to learn and understand their movements and trying to show a level of respect, like we've already established in certain locations that they do recognise us. So we are hoping that they do recognise us in the areas, realise that it's those guys. They're not here to show any disrespect. So hopefully that can bump up the activity, and hopefully we can be one step closer to recognition and protection of these beings. Because as we know, with housing development and us as human beings, for the most part, with development, we don't care about the bush. Right. For example, we'll have property owners who have had 100 acres for the last 50 years. And as animals and yowies as well, they don't see boundaries, they don't see fence lines, they don't see borders. So these beings and their troop, their family members have been using this property owner's 100 acres for forever.
Right.
And next thing you know, us hairless monkeys turn up and bulldoze and put up these big boxes we live in, and we start getting an influx of reports from certain areas because things are being thrown at from the bush. Beings are coming down screaming at new homeowners because there's that lack of respect. So again, going back to the acknowledgement and protection of these beings down their areas to try and keep them safe and keep them happy, because we all know what happens when a species is found, even a bird species is found, and it stops logging.
Yep.
Big sections of forest are now sectioned off because that bird needs protection. So if you think a bird needs protection, what about if the government comes out and acknowledges that these beings exist?
Yes.
The amount of forestry and bush and land that would have to be blocked off to developers, logging and that kind of thing, to keep these beings safe in their habitats. So again, not only striving for, I guess, the money shot, because obviously that's what people want, but also pushing for that recognition and protection, because these beings obviously have very large ranges. They cover vast distance. Their territories are obviously quite big.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the case when a house hasn't been lived in for 12 months, the Yowies noticed that. And we had a case a little while ago where it got to the point where the family wouldn't let their 3 kids and the dog outside after 4 p.m. on any day. Wow. Because they had a Yowie that would come down just after they moved into the property. So the Yowie's gotten used to, no one's been in this house for a minimum of 12 months. And now there's noise, there's kids, there's dogs barking, there's music playing, there's people, there's cars driving in. Also, there's noise on, I guess you could say, reclaimed property, reclaimed territory that this particular rogue male has taken up. And now every day he's coming out of the bush, out of the mountain, screaming at the kids at night time, going up in the back patio, picking up the dog bowl, slam the dog bowl against the house, slapping the sides of the house, because he's obviously upset because his territory's taken over. Yep. So if you can imagine what could happen if recognition and protection isn't achieved to some degree,
right,
and you've got troops. I mean, like where we are, it's suspected that there's up to 36 members.
Oh wow!
Of made up of 3 different troops that span an area of probably 15 kilometers as a crow flies. Wow. And obviously that includes parents, old, kids, babies, young.
Yeah, it's big family.
Basically your typical family troop. So even though people want the money shot, my personal intention is for recognition and protection. Yeah. If things go amazing and the money shot comes out of it, that's what's going to happen. But hopefully that then lends itself to the end goal of recognition and protection.
Yeah, I think that's
like it or not, they're out there.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's the perfect goal. It's just to help them, because like you say, man, with land development and everything else, it's getting not so bad in the United States, but development is development. You know what I mean? And the more it encroaches on their land, we had the same thing around here, even with more common animals like deer. You have deer running through your front yard. Why is that? Because your front yard is in their, it's in their house.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. They don't see fences. They don't see borders. It's all the one land. Yep. And again, these hairless monkeys decide to go put up this big box to live in, and put up this weird structure around that box.
Yep.
And only like 6 months ago, they could walk straight through there with no issues.
Yep.
So it is an intrusion.
It is.
I understand that there is a, obviously with the growing human population, we've got to put them somewhere.
Mhm.
But I think we need to be more mindful and more strategic in the way of doing so.
I agree with you. And there's a
Uh,
theory. There's a theory here that
Yeah.
national parks that we have, they're enormous. I'm talking like 1 million acres. Yeah, there's a theory that these national parks are being set up, and that's part of the reason why. There's Bigfoot populations in there, and that they're just deeming it a national park, but it's really to protect that species. And I hope that's the case.
I hope so, mate. I mean, as we know, both here and over there, the government definitely know about it.
Oh yeah.
That's not even a discussion for debate. It's fact.
Yeah.
So I really hope that's true. I do hope that the Australian government is going to hopefully do the same thing. Or I hope there's branches of the Australian government that want to do the same thing. I mean, the rangers that do look after the national parks, they do know about them. Yeah. We've spoken to too many rangers that they do know of. They do know of their existence. They've had encounters and sightings themselves.
Yeah.
So surely that's got to link back to someone who is hopefully in a positive mindset to look after them. Because I think we like, excuse me. So after talking to so many people and different areas have different types of encounters. Some peaceful, some not peaceful. And I think the more that we encroach in their territory, the more negative encounters are going to come out.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we don't want that. And Gary, you've been a wealth of knowledge. I truly appreciate you coming on the show, man, and talking to me. I know we got a big time difference, and I appreciate you. You helped me figure out what time it is in each location and everything else, man. But
I think I think we jumped on. I think it was about 9:40 Eastern Australian time on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah, it's Monday night here. It's a little bit after 9 now. So yeah, it's wild.
It's good stuff, mate.
Yeah, brother, it is. And if you'll do me the honor of coming back on, in just a week or two, I would love to have you on.
Happy to do so.
There's only one day that I got a few things booked in the next couple of weeks, but there's only one that's concrete, can't move it. The rest of it, I can shuffle around to fit whatever your schedule is. You'll make this work. So
for sure, mate. I'm really, for sure, easy done, mate. I'm really hoping that's. Fingers crossed. I'm feeling really positive about Saturday night. I mean, also I'm happy for any interactions, be it rock clacks or tree knocks, and some kind of interaction.
Yeah, brother.
We've had voices down there as well, so it's it's one of the main hotspots in Australia for activity. So I'm really hoping that we get some kind of good positive results out of Saturday night.
Awesome. Yes, I hope it works out for you too. I'll be praying for y'all to stay safe down there, because you never know when something might pop off, man. But please be safe.
Oh, for sure, mate.
Thank you again for this opportunity. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And for
likewise,
everybody
mate.
listening,
Good fun.
Yeah, it was. And for everybody listening, go to yowiehunters.com. Check out Australian Yowie Research official on Facebook. And
that's the one.
Gary, you have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon, brother.
I will just quickly throw in there, if you want to go to YouTube and look up Yowie Hunters, Yowie Hunters Witness Audio Reports. We have around 180 witness audio reports in there, so that includes the witness telling their story, and animations and that kind of thing as well. Generally about 10 minutes to half an hour, but it's a visual experience. So people are used to listening to podcasts and listen to radio shows about the encounters, but this way you've actually got a visual as well as listening to the interview as well. So Yowie Hunters Witness Audio Reports.
Awesome. Yes, I'll look that up. If I can't find it, man, which I'm sure I will, but if I can't find it, send me a link on Facebook Messenger, and I'll put it in the show notes. I'll put all of this in the show notes.
Sounds good, mate.
All right, brother. Have a good night, or have a good day.
Cheers. Thanks,
Later,
mate.
brother.
Cheers. Catch ya.